Well, with all due respect to Kev Mo, we may not be standing on the brink of disaster. We may be standing on the brink of, something really new and great, depending on how things go on Tuesday. For folks who missed it earlier, our Women Win Wisconsin segment was started just about 2 years ago by Sarah Godlewski, who wanted to lift up the voices of women all over Wisconsin who were seeking to be local leaders. Maybe they were running for their local school board or taking part in a group. And then, gosh darn it, she found a slightly better gig as Wisconsin Secretary of State. And at that point, Dr. Kristen Lyerly stepped up and said, hey, I'd like to do that. So she helped us find a whole bunch of great guests every Thursday. And then, gosh darn it, she found this thing running for Congress. Apparently, we need good people in there, she tells me. And so that's when Kate and Nicole and everybody over at Motherhood for Good said, hey, how about us? And how wonderful it has been for you to bring in all of these amazing women to talk to us about the things they want to do in their hometown or for their state or for their country. But today, for one last Thursday visit before the election, I just wanted to give the two of you as much time as you wanted without Q&A to just simply talk about, the stakes, which really come back to why you started this group in the first place for busy moms. So Kate, Duffy, Nicole Slavin, good morning to both of you. How are you?
Good morning. Good. How are you?
Well, good here. I mean, one of you is in the Milwaukee area. One of you is in the Green Bay area. Kate, you came out to Madison for the rally with Vice President Harris. Nicole, I'm guessing you did not go to the Trump rally in Ashwaubenon, but I'm really thinking that you are savvy enough that you are the one that planted the idea somewhere. You know what? Donald Trump should dress up like a garbage man and get in a garbage truck with his campaign logo on the side of the garbage truck. That really has your fingerprints all over it.
Someone's trolling him, right? Like that was an idea that got approved. It is bananas to me. And then he wore the vest the entire speech. Nothing about it made sense. Nothing about it made sense.
No, he was trying so hard to undo the damage from the Puerto Rico being a garbage island there. And it's just been nothing but blowback for him, which is completely understandable. Let me kick off the conversation this way, though, about women. And it's what I just said about my interview on the BBC yesterday. In talking to a conservative radio show host who said he thinks the difference in this election is going to be this surge in turnout by men who are going to vote for Trump, and including men who belong to unions and in their usual constituencies. And look at you both laughing before I even get done with the question. But the fact of the matter is there is no evidence of anything other than what I responded with. And that is a groundswell, not just by suburban moms, not just by women in cities, but women in rural areas. The Dobbs decision is still extremely fresh. So let's pick on Nicole first for a positive affirmation. Nicole, do you think I was right?
I think you were right. Yes, we're not going back, Pat. Enough is enough. I absolutely agree. And the sheer amount of women who have spoken up, regardless of what political party you affiliate yourself with, I think it affects all of us. And just the groundswell of support and organizing, it's time. It's time. And it's so gratifying to see so many women connect, women I would have never met because of the work that we're doing. It really makes you feel at home in your community and knowing there's more of us than there are of them.
And go ahead, Kate.
I was just going to say, listen, like, we are liberal out loud for sure, but we are hearing, like, we are at things, we are having more conversations with women who have been getting involved for the first time, who have voted conservative in the past or with their husband. And they are saying, Nicole, to your point, enough is enough. And we're have been in these living rooms across the state, especially in the rural areas where women are coming together and they're just hearing more stories, and just seeing themselves in these stories, and they're seeing people they love in these stories, and they're realizing that these dangerous things could happen to any woman they know. And I think, again, women are being severely underestimated in what's going to happen in this election.
The thing about women seeing themselves in these stories has primarily been when it comes to reproductive health care rights and the tragic things that can happen. But over the past couple of days, there's been this new development we talked about during the break, another place where some women see themselves, and it deals with the secrecy of your vote. And for many of us, that seems obvious. It seems just so readily apparent. And yet, as I've heard from conservative hosts and commenters on social media, you hear some of these lugs saying, well, that's why I make sure my wife fills out her absentee ballot, in front of me so she doesn't vote wrong or something like that. This is the year of our Lord 2024, Kate. Mm-hmm. And I guess as angry as I might be about that, I guess I'm glad that these dolts are saying these things, because then more women maybe see themselves in those stories.
Yeah. And I think there's even a spectrum of the women that messaging applies to, right? Like, we have to acknowledge that there are women in dangerous situations, in relationships that are not good. And those messages are very valid for those women. And then there's women where, like, their situation may not be dangerous, but they've just, like, always just kind of voted with the way their husband kind of talked about or wanted them to. And so I think, like, it's landing with a lot of women who, like, from the ones in situations that aren't good to the ones who just, like, haven't really paid attention before and being like, maybe I can do something different this time. And I do think I'm glad that messaging is out there, as hard as it may be for some of us to relate to. It's very real, even though it is 2024. Yeah.
We've had a couple of positive frames here about how things could turn out, but I would be remiss if I didn't admit that earlier this week, and I don't know what made me do it, but I went back on YouTube and looked up the election night coverage from 2016. Because I was anchoring the news the next morning, and I'm sure I still had a look on my face like, I cannot believe this just happened. And I'm looking at all the other news anchors saying, this is unbelievable, Donald Trump's winning. And I don't know if that was just a defense mechanism to guard against any overconfidence, but Nicole, are there healthier things that people could do and don't do what I did and go back and relive the trauma of 2016, but also don't be cocky about next week?
There's so much that you can do. So yes, you can put your anxiety into action. There's plenty of canvassing shifts to do. If that's not your jam, you can certainly phone bank. Many opportunities for phone banking as well. But what I would say, the most important thing you can do is think about your friends, your family, your coworkers, the people you know. Reaching out to those people and asking them if they voted, and if not, hey, what's your plan to vote? And then going one step further and explaining what are the issues that matter most to you? Why did you vote? Because when you make it real, when you make it personal that way, with people that you know and care about, the natural reaction is for them to share the issues that matter to them. And from there, then you have passion and then you have action. So what I would say is, don't assume everybody has voted. Reach out to your friends, your family, your neighbors, ask them about why they're voting, tell them why you voted. And then from there, make sure they get their butt to the polls.
And this is such a sea change from not terribly long ago when nobody wanted to talk about politics. We don't talk about politics or religion or some of these other things. And again, this is at the very crux of Motherhood for Good is, you got to talk about these things. You got to think about these things. And Kate, we talk about how positive that is, but I think we have to take a step back and recognize this actually is a pretty new phenomenon of saying, no, let's talk about this with friends, neighbors. Let's have conversations that might start a little awkward.
Yeah, I think it's definitely been, something that even like, I'm not that old, but even growing up, it like wasn't something you talked about that much. Okay, when I'm done, okay. I will let you know. Okay.
I love the proof that this is live radio with real moms.
But I think especially with women, just like inherently in our society, we grow up to like make sure we stand in line and not offend anybody and not be too loud. So that plays into it too. And our whole mission is trying to like defy that stigma and have people talking about it, because there's so many women who say like, I don't do politics. And that's just a societal thing that's been kind of ingrained in them. And we're just talking about, you have to do politics because it affects so much of your life. And if you're not doing it, somebody else who believes everything you don't is doing it for you.
And how, Kate, when this all started as Moms for Mandela, and there was a lot of optimism there, and then through a whole bunch of billionaire money, did not get the outcome you want. So I don't have to have you relive 2016. We just have to go back a couple of years. You don't seem the least bit, phased, like there is something we have to do, and we just have to carry on. And I don't get the sense at all that ghosts of 2022 are haunting you and the team.
Okay, well, that's funny you say that, because I've been thinking a lot about 2022. 2022 is almost my 2016 moment. We fought so hard for Mandela and really believed in him and still do. And he came out last night and actually gave a speech at the rally, and we didn't know that was happening, and it was like amazing. But I think, something I've been thinking about is there's still no regrets there. We did everything we could have. Unfortunately, sometimes that's not enough. But, the next day, I wasn't left with the thoughts of, if I would have just picked up one more canvas shift that last weekend or reached out to these people. I was going through my phone and reaching out to anybody I'd ever met in my entire life. And that's what we have to do at this point. It's like the shame goes out the window. No time to be embarrassed now. Like, reach out to everybody. And then that's all you can do. You know what I mean? Not everything is in our hands, but we can do what we can do.
But by doing that, it's how you help move the needle. And Nicole, that takes me up to the Green Bay area, where one of these firms that gauges or forecasts the races has moved things really in the direction of Jamie Wall in that state Senate race. You had Rob Coles, the longest-serving Republican legislator from the Green Bay area, endorsing Kamala Harris. All of these things have to be positive factors for Kristen Lyerly, who there could not be a better candidate running in that district for Congress. So it's all those little indications that both give you hope, but also, you can't take your foot off the gas now.
No, you're exactly right. And I think Northeast Wisconsin is a little different. We aren't quite as loud. It's way more individual conversations and being respectful. And what I've seen over the past, 2-3 years, really, you see so much more involvement. You see so much more of a voice being shared, so many yard signs, all of that. But at the end of the day, I think here it just comes down to common sense. It doesn't need to be about political party. A lot of it just becomes what isn't working, and I want change. And I think you're absolutely correct with Jamie Wall and with Dr. Lyerly. We're going all in to make sure that they get elected, as well as local assembly races are very, very close. Christy Welch in my district is doing incredibly well. So yeah, we'll get out there and keep pounding the pavement and knocking doors and doing everything we can.
Yeah, and let's not forget Alicia Saunders, who puts a note up on YouTube. Motherhood for Good is doing an amazing job getting information out to the voters. And, of course, we appreciate her listening and putting notes in. She talks about taking Election Day off, and it's going to be a long few days here. But that's why you do the work. You know that there's this, long sprint to the finish line. And I asked if you guys were doing anything special for election night, and you quickly reminded me the name of the group starts with Mother. It's a school night, and it's not, election night's a big deal for a lot of us, but for a lot of the world, it's called Tuesday night. And so you'll be watching. Any chance you can just take a few screenshots of the group chat, along the way?
For sure.
Yes.
Because I'm sure that how many people are on that now? And how many?
It's more like how many group chats are there? There's like several different. We might need to have one big Motherhood for Good one going, but there will be gifts, there will be panic, there will be celebration. I'm sure it'll be like every emotion under the sun. Yeah.
Oh gosh, without a doubt. Well, I'm looking forward to talking to you either during election day, election night, the morning after, getting reaction, and frankly, and again, not to put anybody off, but this isn't the end. There's going to be such a big state Supreme Court race coming up in April, so there's only going to be a brief break, because that's what civic engagement is. It's caring about this kind of stuff all year round. Who represents you in all these various areas? But let's worry about that later. Let's get to Tuesday. Kate Duffy, Nicole Slavin, God bless you. Thank you so much for all the guests and all these wonderful segments.
Thank you. And quick plug, we have a voter guide pinned on our Instagram profile. So share that with people who are less engaged and just need a quick reminder.
Go to Motherhood for Good on Instagram. That's great. Thanks, ladies.